In my journalistic practice, data journalism takes the form of observing what's called exhaust data, passively created links and information that I can think strategically about making use of to get to news stories or identify trends earlier than my competitors, and then leverage that information to write richer, more in-depth stories more efficiently than I would have with my own naked writer's pen. One of my favorite examples of a recent project that we've built at ReadWriteWeb is a set of RSS feeds that are of extra high priority to our news team. And the way that we identified those is by pinging the API of a third-party service called FluidInfo that created a database of all of the URLs that ReadWriteWeb has ever linked to over the last 8 years of our history. We then asked the API which of those URLs we had linked to on 2 or more occasions over the last 8 years, pulled down that list, eliminated news sites and competitors, and were left with a list of 1,500 companies that we had referenced more than once throughout our 8 years of history. We then took that data, uploaded it into the system called Crowdflower, which is a platform on top of Mechanical Turk, and paid people small sums of money to go and find the RSS feeds for each of those sites, which we then ran through an RSS to instant messaging bot in a shared chat room for our whole staff, so that anytime a company that we have validated by writing about on multiple occasions updates its company blog, we know within 30 seconds of that blog being updated and can consider writing about it before our competitors have. One of my favorite examples of data journalism in practice at ReadWriteWeb was when news broke in a little Salt Lake City newspaper that a big new data center had been built there in Salt Lake City, and that rumor had it the mystery anchor client in the data center was Twitter. That Twitter was building its first data center outside of San Francisco. No one could confirm that, but we took the twitter.com/Twitter/team Twitter list of all the staff members at the company and ran all of their recent tweets through a service called Needlebase, where we scraped the site for all of the messages, usernames, and locations when locations were appended to a particular message, and then mapped those messages and found one tweet that day from Salt Lake City from a network engineer at Twitter who said, "I've left San Francisco, arrived in Salt Lake City, and I'm ready to get started working." And while that wasn't definitive confirmation, it sure was some interesting color to the story that we included when we wrote it up. There are a wide variety of tools that I like to use to work with web data to support my journalism and the journalism of my staff. Some of my favorites are Delicious and Twitter and Needlebase and PostRank and Dapper. Those tools make working with data easier and more accessible than working with data ever has been before. It enables people like me who aren't developers to work with that data to build other forms of value. Unfortunately, a lot of them are underappreciated by anyone outside the advertising world, and time again, those technologies end up having to turn into ad networks just to keep the lights on, and a lot of opportunity gets lost. The best thing about Delicious is that in saving bookmarks that we want to read later as users, the rest of the world gets to enjoy our structured, publicly available metadata that we've applied in all the tags that we save along with the bookmarks. Those can then be accessed programmatically and used to discover early warning systems, patterns of interest, similar sites, all kinds of different things. Unfortunately, too few people have appreciated that opportunity. None of the companies that have owned Delicious have really taken advantage of that and facilitated that sort of work. And it may be a case of a social software use case that didn't have a lot of sticking power, because fewer and fewer people feel the need to bookmark things online these days when we can share what's interesting today on Twitter or Facebook and search for what we saw in the past on Google.